Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for this webinar. Today we will be discussing domain name centralization, the benefits and potential risks that it avoids. And we'll then discuss the process and what it involves before we leave a few minutes for questions, if any. To begin with, I'll just introduce myself briefly. Generally, Daniel does the webinars, but he couldn't attend today, so I'll take over. My name is Elad Kinsler, and I'm a director at Lexsynergy. After finishing my law degree, I worked as a candidate attorney, but joined Lexsynergy in 2007 by opening offices in South Africa. I manage the domain name department at Lexsynergy and oversee all the domain portfolio centralization projects. And that's why it actually worked well that I'll be handling this presentation. Lexsynergy itself is a global domain name registrar and online brand protection specialist with 24/7, 365 support. We currently have offices in the UK, US, South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, and Australia, which gives us a truly global reach. We offer a number of services, but in essence, we manage domains and we monitor and resolve brand abuse online. The company was founded in 2005 by lawyers to provide cost-effective and proactive domain name management and brand protection services for corporate customers and law firms. As lawyers, we differ to other domain name registrars in that we manage a company's domains, as you would your trademarks, and treat domain names as a core element of the company's IP portfolio. With our mix of legal and technical backgrounds, we offer advice and solutions for all your online brand protection needs. To begin with, we have the small diagram here which outlines the who is who when it comes to domain name ownership. The registry is the domain authority and the entity responsible for the TLD itself, such as .com, .biz, or .uk. This entity manages the root zone of this TLD and allows accredited registrars such as Lexsynergy to have a direct connection to their systems and register domain names in this zone. A registrant is the domain name owner who has to use a registrar such as Lexsynergy in order to register their desired domain name, and a possible party in between the registrant and registrar connection is a reseller. This could be an ISP, for example, which is not directly accredited to the registry but uses a registrar to sell the domain names to the registrant. Lastly, we have ISPs who provide internet access to a company and the web host provider who hosts the actual content related to the domains, such as websites and emails, etc. We usually recommend to keep your registrar, your ISP, and your web host provider separate if possible, as it minimizes the risk of issues in the event of a dispute. A good example is one which is not uncommon. For example, a company has a financial dispute with their web host provider often and refuses to pay them, which may lead to the host provider not only shutting down services such as emails or websites, it also allows them to hold the domain name ransom from that company until they've paid. If your registrar is separate from your host provider, you could simply update your name servers and host the content elsewhere while dealing with the dispute. Then some myths of managing domain names that we've listed here. Some common myths or comments we encounter regarding domain name management and clients' reluctance to start the process. So myth number one is we manage our domains in-house, we don't need a registrar. The reality is domains can only be registered through an accredited registrar or reseller. So if a company says that they do it in-house, that's not true. They are using another outside provider. Another myth is transferring my domains to a new registrar is too much work. In reality, we have an account manager who's assigned to your account. They will handle the entire process for you. You can either provide them with your username and password to your account, or they will tell you exactly what's required and liaise with you to get the process completed. Another myth is we have to pay more for a premium service. We provide a top-tier service at affordable rates. Generally, we would provide a competitive quote based on the domain name list that you provide us, and more often than not, there will be a saving. Regardless of whether you're using a normal retail registrar or a number of them or a corporate registrar, generally you will find that there is a saving in the long run. Another myth is I have to pay to update my domain's information and name servers. This is also not true. The majority of domains can be updated for free. So anything like a com, net, UK, co.za, and the majority of the TLDs are automated and there is no charge for updates. You also get 24/7, 365 support through us. So we also can assist you with those updates. Lastly, another myth is a fixed contract is required and I'll be charged to move domains away. Lexsynergy does not require a fixed contract. We do not hold your domain names ransom. They can be transferred away at any time with no fees. We are confident in our service and believe that you shouldn't have a reason to leave. So, some obvious reasons to centralize. Placing all your domain names into one centralized location makes your domain management more effective and more efficient and cost effective. You are able to view your entire portfolio and export a list at the click of a button, and renewals are made much easier, meaning you don't have to find multiple logins and searching until you find a specific domain which needs to be renewed. From a brand protection perspective, it makes it easy to protect the brand, as once centralized, you can treat any domain name not in the account as either a legitimate registration which needs to be transferred in, or an infringement. It also allows you to ensure that all your domain names have accurate and consistent information on the WHOIS, and no invalid emails or old addresses are listed. Touching on the ease of identifying your domain names, you can see here where often a list of your domain names will include a number of different registrars, and you may not be certain which are even yours. Whereas on the right, you can see a list which has been centralized, showing one registrar and easily identifiable as your domain names. Often, when domain names are not centralized, different business units or individuals in the organization simply register domain names in their own name and with their company email address, as can be seen in the example on the left. This creates an issue in the event that the employee leaves or perhaps has a dispute with the company but retains control over the domain name. During the centralization process, Lexsynergy will agree on a consistent WHOIS template to be used for the company with generic addresses such as hostmaster at or domains at as an example. This means the WHOIS does not need to be updated every time a different employee is tasked with managing domains, as you would simply add the employee to the list receiving emails from the generic address created. Once again, we see the ease in identifying your domain names when centralized as opposed to uncentralized. With different registrars, various registrar and contact persons, and different email addresses listed, it is often very difficult to establish a domain's legitimacy and tracking down the relevant employee listed. A centralized portfolio is streamlined and has consistent WHOIS information, as can be seen on the right. Having your domain names with multiple registrars leads to added costs with different pricing and renewal requirements. Lexsynergy takes your existing domain name portfolio and prepares a quote prior to the centralization process, which often leads to substantial cost saving per year. Here we have a simple diagram which outlines the process from beginning to end of the domain centralization. So from the account creation and a call with your account manager to the centralization process, where we'd get a list of the domain names, we would confirm the domain registration, so we would check that list because often a company gives a list which is very outdated, the information listed is inaccurate, there are domain names that perhaps don't know about, so some searches are involved. Then we would provide a letter of authorization, which simply needs to be signed by a relevant party. We could then start the centralization process. We would then coordinate the transfers with you and the registrars involved. Once it's complete, we would then do a domain name audit, which would then give you an idea of where you are with your portfolio, identify any gaps in that portfolio, maybe any registrations, and pick up some infringements. And that would be part of the audit discussion. We would then look at domain name policy for the company. So the policy would govern who can register domain names, how it's registered. It basically governs everything to do with the domain name, similar to an intellectual property policy of a company. We would have a follow-up call just to see if there's anything else that's required. And from there on, there would just be a biannual domain name audit. So once every 6 months, we would do an audit just to catch up and see what's maybe been registered that's not with Lexsynergy, what may be a potential infringement, and what maybe needs to be moved in and was registered by an employee. So we begin by creating an account. Either you provide us with the relevant information, or you can simply create a free account at https://www.lexsynergy.com/register. This will also ensure that your billing details are correct for invoicing. We would set up a call with an account manager to discuss the process with you, find out which domain names you are aware of, and where, and discuss a timeline to complete the centralization. You would also agree on standard WHOIS contact information, which would be used for all the domain names, and we could set up the currency you prefer to be billed in. We currently offer British pound, US dollar, euros, South African rands, and Kenyan shillings, and also whether you prefer one invoice daily, weekly, or monthly. Finally, you would also confirm which employees require access to the control panel with various permission levels. Your domain manager would then begin the centralization process, handling everything from start to finish, and involves you only when required or when an authorization is required from you for the next step. The process usually takes 1 to 2 weeks for the automated domain names and can take a bit longer for the more difficult domain names such as .zm, for example, which is Zambia, which requires manual forms to be submitted and the registry to review prior to any updates. So those more manual domains sometimes do take longer, but it shouldn't take more than 2 months overall. Once we've completed the centralization, we would then conduct a domain name audit, which is essentially a health check of a company's domain portfolio, covering almost all TLDs worldwide, and this would give you an idea of the domain names you own while identifying infringements, potential risks, and any gaps in the portfolio, such as availability of the brand as a domain name in a country where it trades. To give you an idea of what a domain name audit looks like, we have used a recent example of one we conducted, and the company is Kenya Airways. You will note it begins with a score determining a brand's current health score. 23 out of 600 is extremely low, and typically a company will have a rating of between 2 to 300 when the domain names are in a relatively secure state prior to centralization. The first part of the audit would list the domain names which are owned by the company and list information such as registrant, registrant email, admin email, and the registration and expiry dates. The next section would list domain names registered by third parties, and these are domain names which need to be investigated as they could be registered by employees, partner advertising agencies, or could be infringements potentially. This needs to be determined, and those which are legitimately transferred in and updated, while infringements need to be taken down or monitored depending on the severity. Uncertain domain names are those which appear to be legitimate, however, it is not certain that it is owned by the brand and needs to be determined again prior to transferring or possibly having to recover them. Finally, a list of available domain names are provided which include all relevant GTLDs. So for example, .shop if the brand sells any products, and in country codes where the company trades or intends to trade. So if, for example, the company trades in Indonesia, .id and .co.id would show if they are available. The next stage is to formulate a domain policy for the company, which will govern how domain names are managed. This includes registrations, renewals, and deletions within the company. Lexsynergy works with the company legal department to draft the policy and ensures it is up to date and efficiently protecting the brand. Once we have completed all the steps discussed, the account manager would contact you to confirm all is in order and that you are happy with the process being finalized. Twice a year, the account manager will set up a telecon with the company and the relevant person in charge of domain names or department to review an updated domain name audit and review the domain name portfolio. Just some of the features that Lexsynergy offers currently. Every corporate client gets a dedicated account manager who they can contact directly and who would handle all your queries. We do have a free 24/7, 365 technical support by telephone and email. Our pricing is very competitive. You would have access to over 1,000 domain name extensions worldwide. We have very flexible billing options where you can select daily, monthly, quarterly, or annual. We currently have a number of billing currency options. We do provide free domain training courses for clients and staff members. If you are close to one of our offices, a member of our staff would actually come through and provide the training. Alternatively, a WebEx would be set up, and an online WebEx would be set up to demonstrate the control panel and all domain name related features. A local market presence to allow, where possible, the registration of restricted domain names. So where there's a TLD that requires a local company and perhaps the corporate has not yet opened their company there, they don't have a presence there yet but plan to, we often do provide a local presence service that can be used to act as a trustee while you are setting up that company. So for example, in Zambia we do provide a local presence, in Ghana, in Berlin, and so on and so forth. We also provide a summary of each domain extension requirement. So if you log on to the panel once you've got an account, you can get all the details for that specific TLD. So whichever country it is, you'll look at that TLD, it will give you all the requirements, whether there's a local presence requirement, whether there's a number of name servers that are required, if anything has to be activated, and all that information is available online, plus through our support services should you query any of those domains. We also provide free web and email forwarding for all domain names. You can also register, renew, update, and transfer domains. So our control panel gives you full access to do everything. Other than the account manager and our support department who would support you, you can do everything yourself online. You can export domain portfolio details into an Excel or CSV spreadsheet. You can also filter, and so for example, if you wanted to search only for a specific term, only domain names incorporating a specific term, only a specific date range, you can search all of that and it's easily exportable. A country code top-level domain search function, so you can search according to the country. Obviously, a GTLD search function as well. We also offer a backorder service, so you can place a domain name that perhaps is close to expiring, or one that you would like but is not yet expired, it's registered by someone else. You can place it on our backorder system, and our system will automatically monitor it every few seconds and attempt to grab it as soon as it does become available. We have DNS configuration access, so you can also provide specific user access to your technical department, and they could make any changes to the DNS required. So if whether it be add or edit or remove a record, you can do that all through the panel. You can also purchase and renew SSL certificates. We do have a real-time who is domain database should you want to search for registered domain names and who owns them. Sub-user account, as I discussed, you can allow restricted access, so you can give accounts department access just to invoices and statements, and you can give the technical department access just to the technical functions such as DNS records and email and web forwarding. And you can also select different units to have access only to specific domain names. So we do have some internal folders where you say, you know, this user will only have access to a list of A domain names, while the rest of them will not be visible. As an additional layer of security, and it is optional to your account, you can add two-factor authentication, which we would strongly recommend. A snapshot of what our control panel looks like once logged in is here. You will see the account manager at the top right corner where you can contact him directly. In this example, it's me. A snapshot overview of your portfolio is beneath that, with a list of domains expiring within 3 months, registered domains, expired domains. You can also see SSL certificates if you have any, and any brand protection cases which are either ongoing or closed. To the left, you have access to all the different functions, such as searching for domain names to register, you know, seeing your domain name portfolio, a list of renewals, perhaps transferring in your domain name, and obviously you've got that search at the top where you can search for any domain name you may be interested in registering. If you click on the domain portfolio, you will see a full list of your domain names. You can click on the plus next to a specific domain name if you want to see more information, and you can always export by clicking on the Excel CSV buttons above. Here is an example of what it will look like if you click on a specific domain name with all the relevant information being displayed. Some nice features I will touch on are the domain folder column, which is purely for your own internal reference, and you can create various different folders according to your requirements, and you can even assign different billing entities according to the folders. So what that means is you could assign all UK related domains to the company's UK office and be invoiced in pounds, while the US office could have a separate folder with a different billing entity for the US company's details. We have recently launched a premium domain service, which is provided if you have over 200 domain names. This includes a dedicated account manager, a bespoke domain name policy, which is drafted for you, the domain audits twice a year, and discounted rates on brand protection with the option of a retainer service. If you are interested about this service, feel free to send me an email or contact me after this webinar is over. That brings us to an end of the webinar. I hope I haven't bored you too much. If there are any questions, feel free to send them through, and there's my contact details, and we can deal with them. Send them through at any time, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you, and have a good day.